Good evening, everyone. And I'm hoping my voice is reaching everyone because looking at the ambience that we have, I think even the microphones are not required. But anyway, we will try to record each and everything. I welcome all of you to this roundtable discussion that has been organized by ETCIO in association with SolarWinds. And first of all, gratitude to all of you for making it on time. Looking at the traffic conditions and everything, particularly people coming from that side of the city. I'm coming from Goregaon, so it was a cakewalk for me. I was here in like 20 minutes sharp, which was surprising for me as well. But I do feel that people whose offices might be that side could be challenging because the other side, the other road was completely red on Google GPS, that side, and I was dreading, my God, what is happening? How are these people going to reach? So our gratitude to all of you on that count. And I'm personally very happy. After the pandemic, things have started in person. And one more reason why I'm happy is that I see so many familiar faces, so many friends here. It's an actual, it's a great occasion to be here. So the discussion that we have today is around amping up hybrid cloud observability. I know a lot of people know me, but for those who don't, my name is Mukbil Ahmer. I am the executive editor at ETCIO, and I'll be moderating this discussion. But you need not worry. It's an open house. And I'm very happy looking at the constitution of this gathering that, it can't get filled anymore. We are at the brim. So, which is a great thing, and I'm expecting a lot of very diverse perspectives to come around. And so, just before we dive into the conversation at hand, let me lay down a little bit of the context. We all understand, and this is a term which has been bandied about for a very, very long time, which is digital transformation. A lot of enterprises are undergoing that, and a lot has been written and spoken about it. Now, in this entire jigsaw puzzle of digital transformation, we find that cloud has emerged as the central theme or the underlying glue which binds all these new and emerging technologies. And a lot of enterprises are undertaking this digital transformation journey riding on the back of cloud adoption. Of course, it's been a long time that cloud was adopted. Now we are in the era of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud environments, where people are really exploring, all the advantages, all the, benefits that cloud has to offer and how to really optimize it. Now, we do believe, and that is the premise for this discussion, that sometimes, observability could be a challenge in hybrid cloud environments. So, coming from that side, uh, we are going to talk about how you can increase that, what are the challenges, and how do you move past it. And particularly keeping in mind that cloud is something that is being spoken about by roughly everyone, and all enterprises are in some stage of whether they are in very sensitive sectors like BFSI or healthcare or digital natives which are out and out on the cloud. So with these words, I would like to start the discussion. Before we do that, I would request every one of you, this is just a hygiene check that I personally follow, that I have introduced myself. Let's have a round of discussions around the table so that we all know each other and there is no room for any ambiguity. Starting with.
I'm Sudhakar Ramakrishna. I'm from SolarWinds, the CEO at SolarWinds, and I'm delighted to meet all of you. I also have Ish Sundaram, who is my friend, colleague, and also a board member at SolarWinds, and Sarah here, who runs marketing for us in region, and Vikas, who runs our India team.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Prashant.
Myself, Prashant Deshpande. I'm from Shriram Finance, CISO and CDO.
Hi, I'm Dhaval Pandya. I'm the corporate CIO at Piramal Enterprises.
My name is Mariyar Patel. I lead the digital transformation for G9 company. We are the logistics major of and 22 years old. Young.
Wonderful.
Doesn't need any introduction. This is what he wants to say. Vag.
Hi everyone, so Chaitanya Bhag here, Head of IT at Julius Baer.
Hi, Rajendra Manirao, CISO, Scotia Bank.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Naveen Nathani. I'm part of the Aditya Birla Group, Hindalco Industries, and I take care of IT transformation and value creation.
I'm Yagnesh Parikh, I head IT for Trust Group.
I'm Subramaniam, CISO for IDBI Bank.
Hi everybody, good evening. Chandrakant Kamath or Chandra in short from Barclays. I look at infra and applications for Barclays. Thank you.
Hey, hi, I'm Kiran Kulsekar. I'm from Egon Life. I am the CISO and also take care of the tech governance as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Prasad. I am from Parle Agro. I take care of operations and transformation.
Good evening everyone. My name is Saumil Purani. I am from Axis Bank and I take care of private cloud.
Wonderful. So with this out of the way, I think we can dive straight into the discussion that we have at hand. And I would like to start with you, Prashant. So we have spoken about, how this this thing which has been talked about a lot, which is digital transformation. It has been in the discourse at various forums. Do you see any change in that post the unprecedented circumstances which have existed over the past 2-3 years when the pandemic was really raging?
I will say yes, pandemic has accelerated it, but before that, being a part of NBFC, the earlier turbulence like demonetization and the LFS event, as a NBFC and as the sector we are serving, where it was a digital transformation was a mandatory for us, because just to brief about my organization, Shriram Transport Finance, we are in a segment where we finance used vehicle drivers. Okay, we are in niche in used vehicle finance, and my customers are drivers. Okay, so for us that digital transformation become very critical, and as the pandemic has accelerated, but yes, demonetization was something where we went ahead and done a lot of activities which helped us subsequently post pandemic, and then thanks to pandemic. We started our super app journey, where we thought that rather than addressing the issue in a piecemeal manner, we need to think differently, and rather than patching up the products, we need to design a digital product specifically. So yes, as we started it as a Shriram 2.0 journey, as a traditional, we are maintaining our culture, our ethics as it is, but again to fight up with this all the fintechs and startup, we took the other route also of the digital transformation, and we are serving that route effectively.
Wonderful. So one statement which caught my attention right in the beginning, I don't know how many people would agree with that, thanks to pandemic, which I think pandemic has been a boom for this sector, at least in terms of technology. They have been the ones who have really got themselves into center stage, which is a great thing which has happened. I totally agree with your view that the digital roadmap for today's enterprises has to be rethought and re-strategized. Yeah. Wonderful point coming from you. Dhaval, your views on this?
So, again, not too much to add after what he said, but yes, one of the aspects that has remained consistent is managing customer expectations, and that has apart from the pandemic, I think that has been one of the levers that has been driving or providing all the tailwinds to the digital transformations, as to where you work back from what the customer is expecting, and then to be able to deliver what the customer is expecting, what are the kind of capabilities that you need to put in place, and that eventually translates into the kind of capabilities you need to invest in, and then execute them in a time-bound manner. So from there, I think the entire infra stack has not been an exception. It has also evolved in the same manner. You talk about the rudimentary storage, compute, memory. You want to deliver, say, a GPU-based capability to the customer, that needs a different kind of capability. You want to deliver a computing-heavy application, then that demands a different kind of capability. You want, even in the B2B space, for example, where a lot of assistive technologies are coming to the fore, be it either say VR, AR based or be it purely calculative technologies which help you. For example, how do I put a code together for a customer where I'm not just providing any product or service, but it is basically a basket where you have to more configure or arrive at a solution to be able to deliver what the expectation is. So yes, working backwards I think has been the rule of the game, and again there is no difference when it comes to infrastructure, and the effect thereof is observability, security, and whatever other levers you would want to look at.
Right, very interesting points coming about, particularly in the context of customer experience and how it has skyrocketed over the past few years. Mr. Patel, would you like to add to this, how customer expectation has really, shot through the roof?
Yeah, I think one of the fundamental part about all our businesses is that what you are doing pre-COVID and what you're going to do now.
True. It's a new world.
When you think about what you were doing earlier and now, the mindset itself has changed. Correct. Probably to fill in all the shortfalls. Also to look at business first in terms of what you deliver in IT. So that is also one of the most important game plan, because everything starts from the fund that is allocated to IT, right?
True.
So the point becomes a situation for you is either to see and relook as to what you were running earlier and what you're going to run now, plus what you're going to deliver to the business. Because the fundamental problem that happened is that the business is running, but running in a different way, and then serving to customers. Probably the eventuality would come in again, what you would do. I think that was one of the primary thoughts in everybody's mind. So just to cut thought in what digitization is moving forward to is, I think, rightly said by Dhaval, is customer first is coming in logistics as well, that is primary. But customized part is something that probably is going to deliver the future, because everybody would have the differentiator value in the whole cycle that you're delivering to the customer is going to be important. So tech piece is going to be very important part. So everybody would be building these tech pieces and then going forward and helping that business to grow. Having said that, the most important part is that what you run and hybrid situation, which is going to be very important. So I wouldn't say all cloud out or all data center internal would be the right approach, but the approach best fitted to your industry in an ROI situation, and then that could be complemented into saying that yes, you run an efficient technology setup is going to be one of the most important benchmarks. And I would say that probably one of the digitization mantras I would follow is don't look at implementing technologies for the sake of doing it.
True.
Put in the right stacks which are going to be important for you to help business grow, rather than the opposite part about some fundamentals which are going to go wrong, and then you need to correct it in an investment perspective. So I think that's what is important: speed and getting things right.
Wonderful points coming from you, where you spoke about the tech piece as well as the fact that it is the business or the business requirements which should dictate the adoption of technology, and adoption of technology cannot be just for the sake of it. Wonderful points coming from you. Now, Chaitanya, I want to go to you. He said that this entire tech piece is very, very critical. In that, how do you visualize cloud going forward? I know you come from the BFSI sector, which is, towards the conservative side of the fence.
So I would like to combine one comment which Dhaval also made, right? Customer expectations skyrocketed. What I would say is customer expectations were there, and before COVID we had this SMAC word going around. So customer offering was there, but what I think is completely also changed is employee expectation. Because earlier employees, you take any department, it was given that, okay, top boss, one level below will have mobility, laptop, etc. The rest would be office crowd. That completely changed. Everybody started working from home. Everybody started expecting, I want service wherever I am, correct? And that culture which started stayed, correct? So now also it's hybrid working environment, correct? As simple thing as Teams was not used that heavily everywhere.
yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
Teams, I doubt people use desk phone anymore. It's mobile and Teams. Nobody picks up phone to speak. So with even internal expectation change, correct? Naturally, now the infrastructure also needs to keep in place. Uh, that could not happen only with your infra lying either in your data center or a third-party data center provider's infrastructure. That propelled the move to the cloud. So it was there, but whatever we do after COVID area, due to these reasons, needs to be cloud first. So cloud first has definitely in now.
Wonderful. So that's really heartening to, that comment is really heartening in the sense that it's coming from the BFSI sector. Rajendra, would you, no. Naveen, so going on to you, do you foresee any challenges to this adoption of this mammoth adoption which is currently happening in terms of cloud? Do you think that there are challenges in that piece?
Well, I would say that every organization is undergoing this change management when it comes to cloud. And I see a lot of people smiling around, but everyone knows mostly what are the challenges. And I think the challenges primarily come from the fact that the business users don't have a lot of confidence in terms of, one, the security of the data. That's the most crucial aspect that is there. Two, can I rely on a cloud-based outcome vis-a-vis me going actually to the machine and checking the efficiency and reading out the number and going back to the management team and saying, you know what, yes, I have seen it personally, and then this is what happened. So I think that's been a common phenomenon that has been there. And therefore, I would say that cloud adoption was slow earlier, but with COVID come into the picture, it is like cloud on steroids. Everyone is now kind of thinking about how can we move to the cloud faster. The XCOM management team members who visit similar kind of conferences or events come back to us and say, you know what, I've heard this company is doing something on cloud. Why can't we do it? Why can't we do AI, ML, and all of those things that kind of stem from that. So I would say that as organizations are becoming more data-driven in their approach, especially with the COVID accelerated that, I think organizations have now started embracing the fact that yes, that's going to be there. However, organizations are still taking a very cautious step towards saying that what data should be on the cloud versus what data should be on-prem, depending upon the industry they come from, depending upon the security architecture that is being put in place. And therefore, I would say that earlier cloud was a myth. I would say to a certain extent, people before COVID would say, you know what, it will take about 10 years more to come to India. Most of us would now see at least about anywhere between 20 to 30% of the adoption on the cloud. And as I said, challenges are manifold: security, cost, governance. How does this tightly integrate with the business objectives and the vision of the organization? I think all of those things are still areas that we are kind of figuring out. But I would say that it has picked up pace, and I think there's more to come up.
Wonderful words. Yagnesh, your views on this? I mean, he said that, there are he said there are manifold challenges as far as the adoption of cloud technologies are concerned. One of them could be observability. Do you agree with this? That, particularly enterprises which are functioning in a very hybrid multi-cloud environment, what are the challenges that they particularly encounter as far as observability of their infrastructure is concerned, and particularly keeping in mind that, as Naveen said, that it's a data-driven world today. Everyone is trying to harness, and it's become a cliche now that the data is the new oil. I've heard it so many times. So in that context, how do you see the entire thing panning out?
See, what we observe that initially there was a security issue, but of late people are not worried about security. The same risk which we carry on-prem, we carry on the cloud. No much difference on that. But one of the challenges we face in the monolithic applications, where what we observe that the application, if it not been re-architected to suitable to a cloud or take the advantage of the cloud container or those type of thing, if you don't do that, then the cost is going very high of the cloud. So as is moving the applications and saying that I'm on a cloud, our observation of the cost was very high. But once you make use of the full, take advantage of the cloud environment and container, then you get the full benefit of optimization of the cloud. That's what one thing we observe. And second, of course, because of that cost implication. And yes, one of the big challenge remains is to handle the auditors, because we have no answer to that. They have come and asked sometimes questions, what is your control on cloud, the data don't go out? We have no answer. Agreement don't help in that. So beyond that, I don't...
pain points.
Yeah, beyond that, I don't think is any other big challenge. We see that.
Right. So he brought out a very important point that in order to leverage the full potential of cloud, there has to be a concomitant modernization of IT infrastructure within the organization also, which is a very good point. Otherwise, it would lead to, a great amount of costs or price inflations which happen. So apart from this, and he said that legacy applications are a major impediment to this. Your views on this, Subramaniam?
See, cloud, now we have no other option because all our partners, fintechs and others, their offering is only on the cloud. So you are by force, you are going to adopt cloud. Compelled to adopt cloud. Coming to the security of that, RBI compliances are very stringent, and they are very equivocal that the data should not leave the country. One, localization part is there, and secondly, the responsibility of security would be with the enterprise, not with the cloud service provider. So that is, they are making these things very clear. So what comfort you have with the cloud service provider becomes a major talking point. And as far as somebody was saying that the board and other CXOs, they would like you to immediately adopt and bring out results. The security challenges have to be managed somehow. So that is where it remains. As far as adoption, cloud technology availability, AI, machine learning, things, all those have come in place, but the security infrastructure, that transparency is still lacking. And means that also has to be built
addressed. And of course, I agree that I think this is a common refrain that I've heard, that there are, people have, like, for example, like you voiced your concerns around security. These concerns have been there for some time. Now, I think one will have to go into rigorous research to really find out if these gut feelings are actually, have scientific backing. So apart from that, I think you also spoke about, how you are compelled to adopt cloud. So how much of your enterprise is on the cloud?
They're all new initiatives.
They are all on the cloud.
We are taking a view with cloud also into picture.
Okay.
There is no doubt.
You are factoring it in.
Yeah, we are factoring in it, and we are seeing which is, we are seeing the pros and cons are going with public cloud, or at least the private cloud. We are looking at that. We are not insisting it should be on-prem only.
Okay.
As far as
which is a great, shift from the previous positions that enterprises had, where they were really very conservative as far as cloud adoption was concerned.
But these challenges remain as regards compliance. And means the cloud service providers agreement, as he said, may only be in paper, but actual what happens, and we are seeing a lot of breaches. Many clouds means we see many stories where people have been able to compromised data, and Nowadays, it's very common. I think last 10 days, we are seeing this anonymous Sudan carrying on, means all kinds of
Things are happening.
things are happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Every day there is a report
yeah.
in the media.
Sometimes you feel maybe on-prem you will have more control over the security. Now you need to depend on somebody else and
True.
yeah.
So when you are
SolarWinds.
Just to add one point here, what is happening that if incidents happens, we don't know whether it's a weaknesses or because of that application it got leaked, or is it that cloud infrastructure
which led to this
they will never
breach.
declare and accept it, and we will never know the truth behind the story.
Correct.
So there is a big challenge coming up, but it's at least my experience. I don't know about others' opinion.
Yeah, configuration itself means how do we configure your cloud infrastructure?
That is of paramount importance.
That is of paramount importance.
So when you are trying to configure, do you have complete visibility?
See, visibility may be available, but auditability is not available. And sometimes the regulator also says that he should have a right of audit over the cloud service provider. And these agreements, these tripartites and all are not through yet. They are all work in progress. They have not, expanded to the level that we can adopt. These things are available. This template is available, we can adopt immediately. That is not there as of now. Maybe another 6 months it may be through, or 1 year. And once the data privacy laws also come, I don't know how will it expand. Because it is after all the bank's customer data which is being stored outside. And whatever be the reason, if there is any compromise, what would be the repercussions as far as the law is concerned if it becomes a law?
True. All those things, I think they are very important, pertinent aspects which will have to be interwoven into any discourse, any discussion which happens on cloud. And I totally agree with you with the coming of the data privacy bill and security concerns, breaches. I think that is quite understandable. Chandra, would you like to add on to, if to the question whether you have enough visibility when, or whether enterprises do have that observability and visibility when, particularly when they are working with various strands of cloud technologies interwoven into one?
Short answer would be no. I mean, if you want me to take the risk and repeat what my predecessors have said, then I think by and large I think I'm going to sing the same song.
This is a musical room.
You can dance as well.
We will all do that once this comes to an end.
By and large, the concern remains that it is not exactly, if I can use the word transparent, that remains. And that's one of the many concerns, obviously, which are there. Add to that other things which are coming in, like, I don't know how many in this room are aware, but just earlier this week, the final circular has come out with respect to IT outsourcing guidelines, which has been published by RBI. And they are saying that they want this particular point to be sorted out, which is basically visibility. And like somebody else, I don't know who mentioned that accountability, just because there is a breach, you can't blame it on a X or Y or Z. You have to take accountability. That is something which you just can't, like insurance, hive it off.
Right.
So
And I think some mechanism will have to be devised which would allow an unbiased investigation or an unbiased study of the root problem. Whenever such a thing happens or an incident takes place, I mean, how do we ensure that there is a very essential part of that ecosystem which goes about investigating this in a very unbiased, professional way? Because as he rightly said, I mean, when something like that happens, it is very difficult to pinpoint where the problem exactly was. So that's a very important point coming from you. Kiran, would you like to add on to this coming particularly from the security aspect?
So I think I may go against the tide in this scenario.
You must.
Uh,
You are a strong fish.
Not basically we are in an insurance. It's like a more of a risk management organization, but we have been like a complete reset what we did, and we transform ourselves more into a more of a cloud native, because the business model also changed because of all the last 2-3 years, where we wanted to be. Insurance is more like an assisted business, more human intensive with a lot of agents, but the strategy which we moved is from a B2B2C, from a D2C perspective, which directly means, and so cutting down our sales force. And the strategy was more towards, while the partners can do an assisted business, but for us, we wanted a non-assisted business completely. And that was something which we are still struggling and working on it. But definitely on the tech side perspective, which really enabled, because we believed our partners are more digital or tech-enabled partners. For example, wallets, e-commerce, travel, and all those. So which are ideally tech, and unless and until if you go with your legacy tech stacks, you are definitely not going to be the preferred choice to work with. So that's where the transformation happened, and we looked out more of a cloud native, event driven architecture for that matter, and which also the data driven approach is what
Correct.
making. By the time the customer is following his journey, we just don't wanted him the friction to come. So if he's there on an e-wallet, he can complete his transaction on e-wallet, bank, or whatever the platform the customer is. We don't wanted him to come back on our platform and have that friction. This thing. So for that frictionless journey, obviously, one is the entire transformation of the tech stack which we did, but that also really wanted a good observability stack as well. I think that is something which really, because if you look at from a off-the-shelf or a package applications, you really have to struggle in terms of getting the visibility for that. Since the entire tech ecosystem engineering was done in-house, that really gave us a real-time visibility. Even the partners are getting it. It does not, because insurance, if you see, it's a more like a batch operations.
True.
End of the day
It's an
job.
entire ecosystem.
So that the transformation, the partners started getting a visibility near real time, I would say.
Wow, that's great.
So I think that is something which really helped. And security, obviously, it's not the traditional security is not working out over here. So you need to have your guardrails right, because the volume of changes which comes, the velocity is quite high. So I think that's where we took like an car airbags approach. So you get embedded your security right from the beginning, get your the tools deployed, so that the engineering team is also actually benefited it, so that they could innovate, they could move fast, while security is also taken care of and not as a bolt over. So that's
True. No, I totally agree with you. That's a very valid and a very important point, that security cannot be an afterthought. It has to be built right from the outset. Excellent points coming from you. And I was really heartened by your reply that you have been able to sort that visibility challenge in-house, which again is quite an achievement. Now we have had a very, Bombay is the financial capital, so you can see the representation of the BFSI sector on the table. Now it's great to come to you to have this. Somil, you need something? So, I want your perspective coming from a manufacturing retail organization. How do you see this entire thing, or do you also have those challenges or those concerns?
Yes. Manufacturing obviously are the latecomers or slow movers, but today the entire thing has changed. Earlier we used to get acronym say cloud ready. Now it is cloud only. All applications are, even your normal SAP today is not offering you a choice to operate on premise. It is saying you take it to cloud. I will operate on cloud. So you have no choice. And also the management or the users are not really concerned from where the application is delivered. What they need is the work has
business requirement has to be met.
And the expectation also has gone on a very fast pace. Earlier, the application rollout used to take months. Now they are counting in days. So that is only possible when you have adopt to microservices, enabled architecture, consumption of ready usage, adaptability. Only that matters. So it is by force that you have to opt the cloud. There is no other choice. If you want to be in the race,
You have to deploy it. So, how much of your enterprise is on the?
we are almost 60% on cloud.
Okay. And do you have this challenge of visibility or observability? You do have. Somil, we again come to the BFSI sector. Undoubtedly, Bombay is the financial capital of the country, so it behooves that we have such a large representation from the BFSI sector. Somil, your own experiences with cloud and what does the industry think about it in terms of these challenges that we have been talking about?
First of all, BFSI as a sector are still waiting for RBI to give some prescription, which is never going to happen. Okay, they will always share a framework, and you have to choose what is right for you. So as Mr. Patel was saying, right, do what your business wants. Though we all think that it is a race, it is actually not a race. Services are available. There are too many moving parts. If we look at holistically, we would see that pre-pandemic also the transformation or digital journey, data as oil was already there. Mobile revolution, the geo journey in India, that is what created one level of acceleration. COVID added more fuel to that because then so many APIs were becoming available. If you look at the classic old case of Target, many years ago, they were able to sell baby products or clothing to a lady who was buying pregnancy related medication. So that kind of data was there, I would say 15-20 years ago. It's not a new story. But that acceleration driver or lever was not there in India. Where so many moving parts became available, so many APIs became available, we realized the potential of this automation, this data and everything. Okay. Second layer is the privacy factor. So now as that gets added, there are more complications. Because now there are explicit and implicit approvals which we need to seek from customer, which is going to have many disruptions in current transformation journey what people are taking. So many BFSIs are taking a hold and proceed iterative approach instead of going full-fledged. Not trying too many things because, as I said, there are too many moving parts. There are too many solutions available. There are too many breaches which are happening. So though one side there is an accelerated digital transformation, at the same side and at the other side there is very heavy data penetration. There is very heavy vulnerability focus. So in this case, a financial institution will always look at the risk factors first and protect their customers first, because you lose data, you lose customer. It's done and dusted there, you are gone. So it's a conservative approach for many financial institutions first. Second, about what you were saying about cloud observability. So see, I look at it in a little different way. If you are going with any cloud native observability suite, something which is given by Cloud A, Cloud B, Cloud C, which is native only to the application, where they don't disclose the appliances what they are using, you are not going to get visibility. Go ahead with standard set of products, which can be deployed on-premise or in cloud. You get whatever level of visibility you want. So what you choose, now the problem is people want to go to cloud, they want to minimize the cost. Hence they choose whatever is natively available. And then they complain that they are not able to audit. So you can't blame everything to a cloud service provider, though I am not. But I am just, looking at it from all other aspects.
Yes,
you can't just, blame everything to a cloud service provider. True. They have a clear-cut mandate. There is a declaration available on all cloud platforms that security is a joint ownership. We teach same for our on-premise kind of setup, but we don't want to practice that in cloud setup. That can't happen. So it's again a mindset, it's a culture. There are so many levels of evolution which we all have to undergo. And it's a step-by-step staged process. It is, even though we expect the transformation to happen overnight, it's not going to happen. We all have to learn to be more patient, be more sensitive to the data, and do what is required for the business, faster delivery, good customer experience, not at the cost of compromising the security or privacy. That's my 2 bits.
No, I'll just add to what Swami said. I think, yes, rightly pointed out, it's one of the shared responsibility, but I was just hearing on the past breaches on the cloud, but if you really go deeper into it, all these breaches are due to human errors or configuration issues. That's not the responsibility of this thing. Unless and until you have a good visibility, you really can't jump onto the cloud. You really need to have a good visibility from what things are happening. And how do you shift left when you are adopting a cloud? Because the moment you do the changes, and I've seen third parties, even where we also associate with, we have seen suddenly the data is completely available. And if you get into the root cause, someone has just make that S3 bucket public.
Oh.
So that's the issue, and the entire data is out on the cloud. So I think the configuration, unless and until you handle the configuration issues or you have your controls, this thing that you cannot create any instances or any workloads outside India that could take care of your controls of the localization or law perspective. If you have those controls predefined and you have your playbooks in terms of your automations, remediations perspective, I think then it is good enough to jump onto the cloud, because it can really add value, honestly, because we have seen it, the kind of speed to market which you can really deliver, it becomes really fast for that matter.
Even what Kiran is saying, what I am been reading right now, if you have, federal data of US must be handled by people inside US boundaries. Okay, I think RBI is also trying to have all financial institution critical payment related servers classified as national infrastructure data. Probably we may also have such kind of regulations coming in that if you are touching PSI, SPI, credit card related or customer related, payment related data, the processing must happen here. Data localization must happen here. There are multifold stories to it, because, it can generate some job opportunities. We can do some level of restriction, so many things. So, there are still more things which we will see in future.
Right. So what I get from the very detailed discussion that we have had till now is that it's a difficult road for enterprises. On one hand, as Subramaniam said, and you also pointed out, that enterprises are forced to adopt cloud to a certain extent. On the other hand, there are challenges and issues and concerns relating to security, visibility, availability, the contract with the cloud vendors and all of that.
And Mukbil, I will just add in one more thing which Kiran just spoke about. I think, as he rightly spoke about the fact that, someone made that bucket to public. Right? Now, you don't need to have a reactive response, but you need to have a more proactive response. And that is where most of us are actually struggling in this entire thing, where if there is any configuration change made, are we proactively informed about it, or is it that we then go and go out and look at the fire douse and say that how do we douse this fire now? So
True.
I think that's where the observability comes into the picture, where you are thinking about more of a proactive response coming in, where anything that happens, you are able to read it, between the lines, you get that.
And remediate it.
Yes.
Immediately, in real time.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I'll share one instance when I actually, we discovered this and we called up one of the partner that this is what it looks like. He said, then it is the cloud service provider issue. It is not we would have done it.
That is why.
Our cloud
accountability.
We were talking to one of your colleagues, State Bank, CXO. One thing that came also as RBI is managing the conflict drift as a big use case. Any drift or reconfiguration happens, it has to be immediately report and manage that. So I think one of the use cases that we are also internally working very hard as part of our SolarWinds observability story is the use case around conflict drift management. So I think quite well.
Wonderful.
That's a good
Great
point.
inputs coming from you also. Now, eventually we come to you, Sudhakar, and I see your sheet is totally full.
3 sheets of paper, yes.
This is called homework. Absolutely rigorous. So the stage is all yours. We've had a very wholesome perspective across the table, and I think
Indeed.
you have a lot
Indeed.
to speak now.
I will first thank everyone for your perspectives. It's been fascinating to hear both the commonality as well as some of the incongruous points that have come out. I completely agree with some of the comments about most issues are human error issues. Most issues are focused on culture and mindset versus I look at cloud as a different kind of data center if you want to oversimplify it. So cloud by itself is really not going to solve anything if our policies are incorrect or if our applications are poorly architected or our data is improperly hosted and so on and so forth. So I give a couple of reinforcements to some of the speed at which things are happening. And many of us spoke about the COVID transition. A couple of examples I'll give you of customers that I engaged with. Since many of you are from the BFSI sector, these are actual banks, large banks in the US. You can guess the names of them. One bank on average had 2,000 remote workers at any point in time. Come March 2020, in a matter of 2 weeks, they had to get 250,000 of their employees working remotely every day. And they didn't have the ability to send them compliant laptops with compliant patches or any of those because people had to use what they had to use. That opens up a Pandora's box, to put it mildly. Another CISO at a bank told me, you helped us in 5 weeks do things that would normally take us 5 years to transform because the speed at which they had to do, they had no choice. It was kind of, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and that was truly the mother of invention. We spoke about security a lot. I might be oversimplifying it, but the way I think about security and protecting against security is you're trying to do two things really. One is to change the threat surface, and two is to compress the threat window. If you can do both, you'll be more secure, regardless of the underlying technology that you're using. If you cannot do it, doesn't matter how many security products you purchase, it's not going to help, right? So that would be something that I would reinforce in terms of overarching policy. How do we constantly look at the threat surface and the threat window? Because whether it is human error, whether it's configuration errors, configuration errors, multiple policy islands, they're all increasing your threat surface, right? And improving the threat window is as much art as there is science to it, because how much time are you giving an attacker to penetrate your systems? So in terms of the ownership, I believe it always falls on us being the implementers of technology. So forget cloud for a second. You go to a traditional data center-based approach or premises-based model. We have firewall, we have antivirus, we have, you name it, you have it. But when something goes wrong, nobody is going to take responsibility but you. You as the CIO or the CISO is answering to your board. Palo Alto Networks or Fortinet is not going to say, sorry, my firewall got breached. Nobody's going to say that. If you get hit with ransomware, unfortunately, no endpoint detection program is going to say, sorry, you got hit with ransomware, I'll help you pay your ransom. That is going to happen. It's our responsibility. So a lot of times people talk about we should buy security software because it's insurance. I'm sure that's another cliche that you hear. Nothing can be further from truth for one simple reason. When you buy home insurance, if something goes wrong, there's an insurance company that's actually giving you money. But when you buy security software and when something goes wrong, no security vendor is actually giving you anything to cover for it. So unfortunately, I think it goes back to the basics of defense in depth or depth in defense is a way to think about it. So both can be equally valid. Defense in depth or depth in defense is a mindset that we need to drive as an organization, be it cloud, be it premises, but more likely hybrid, is the way I would articulate what needs to happen. A couple of other reinforcing things I'll highlight is, because of the explosion of digital transformation, there has been an explosion of poor quality in software or an over-reliance on open source software, right? So similar to in a hardware world where we think about our supply chain, we need to become more aware of our software supply chain. So instead of looking at the audits of a cloud service provider, it is more important to look at the audits of a vendor from a software supply chain. So one of the more recent initiatives that we are working with the US government on under the auspices of CISA is how do we get software bill of materials more visible, such that as a technology implementer and a technology adopter, you have greater awareness. So I'll give you one more statistic as it relates to open source software. On average, vulnerabilities in open source software exist for 4 years, latent vulnerabilities.
4 years.
For 4 years on average. Once detected, they take about 45 days to be resolved. So if you think about it in that way, and if you want to be a bit scared, anybody who's using open source software has many ticking time bombs in their environment. And it is unwise to look at it as one simple thing of cloud or data center, or I feel somehow more protected if I have walled gardens around me, because the threat is already inside your garden. It's just latent. So my goal is not to create more concern or fear, but my goal is to maybe reinforce a few basics. The first basic I would say is look at the number of policy islands that you have. Consolidate policy and centralize policy, because defragmented policy islands are the biggest source of security threats. Inconsistencies in configuration, having multiple policy islands, create security threats. That's number one. Number two, regardless of where your assets, an asset could be data or programs or apps or whatever, consider having policy that shifts that data. Don't create a static threat surface. So think of it as we're throwing darts on a dartboard. If you constantly keep shifting the dartboard on me, chances of me hitting it are much fewer. So think about how do you automate the movement of your threat surface, and then continue to compress your threat window. Those will give us better protection, and I only say better protection because there's no such thing as complete protection in this world. So those are some of my perspectives.
Wonderful. So, how can you help enterprises in their cloud journeys is something that I would want to address you to address as well.
Saumil brought up a really good point with regards to visibility. Each of us, when we go to cloud, and the ironic thing about cloud, I'm sure you picked up in the more recent last 3-4 months, is there's too much noise about, is cloud really inexpensive? The original promise of cloud was go to the cloud and things will be really, really inexpensive. But now people are worried about how expensive it has become. In fact, cloud adoption has slowed down since interest rates started growing in the last 4 to 5 months. Right?
In fact, there are instances of cloud repatriation.
Absolutely happening, right? And that will happen. Normal course, it will happen. There'll be equilibrium, there'll be business specific things and so on and so forth. If you want visibility, the easier path that many people take is go with the native capabilities of the cloud service provider. The concern there is that is not their core expertise. Providing visibility is not their best interest. I'm not trying to attribute any kind of ill intent, but it's not in their best interest, because if they give you transparent, complete visibility, you're going to say, why should this unit be more expensive than something else? Or why is there an issue? At the same time, they provide that tool because it completes their stack, so to speak. That's number one. Number two, going back to that movement of the threat surface, I would suggest you consider a hybrid and or a multi-cloud approach, which means you want a horizontal observability solution that can give you visibility across multiple clouds, possibly give you optimization suggestions on when to move data from one cloud to another, which cloud is more efficient than others, what is more responsive than others, which could be more secure than others. That is true visibility. That's a level of insight you need from a vendor.
But,
So when
but
you-
if it is not a native solution, wouldn't it still rely on the hooks that the cloud service provider will give for you to be able to draw those insights?
That is generally true. That is generally true.
That is true for all any of the SaaS-based applications.
Correct.
So how is the output going to be any better than the native tool?
Great question, right? That is where things like AI ops come into the mix, where you're able to take data from and pattern recognize from different types of sources and not just from one particular source, and be able to extrapolate what could be happening in that particular environment. So that's where the predictive analytics will have to take hold. And so when we think about observability...
But what is there to say that the recommendation is conclusive?
It is not. There is no such thing as a recommended conclusion, right? It is all about how do you improve the margin of efficiency or reduce the margin of error. That what we are doing really is helping you compress your risk profile, right, or change your risk profile. So from an observability standpoint, we look at, first and foremost, when we think about visibility, comprehensive visibility. So when I say comprehensive visibility, what I mean is it is a combination of networks, systems, applications, databases, clouds, but we don't stop there. For you to get truly understanding of the anomalous behavior, you need to look at users and things, right? Security issues, configuration issues are a function of user behavior. So when we look at observability, we look at all of those as part of our observability solution, and not the traditional definition of observability, which is logs, traces, metrics. That is maybe one less layer shallow than what a cloud provides, but it's still shallow, is our assertion. So.
I just wanted to ask one question to you. Is normally when you run a infrastructure, whether in-house or on hybrid cloud setups or wherever, you have a picture where your product will be installed and you get the full visibility. Is there a situation where somebody wants to adopt something? That's where SolarWinds comes in to guide you into the right direction as to, okay, this is what could be a good way forward to look at it. Because see, it's like something that you're already running and they're giving you a picture.
Absolutely.
Something which you are going to be running.
Absolutely.
Would SolarWinds come there as well?
Yes. So
and how?
We have a few ways of helping, if I understood your question right. Before a single piece of software is enabled or used, we have adoption services that we have as part of our portfolio, I would say, of offerings. It's not a hard product, but these are technical experts who can evaluate your environment and provide best practices. And at one level, we provide best practices for your environment, but that is guided by the experience that we have identified watching many different environments, what works, what doesn't, and creating patterns around it. So that's a capability that we can offer. In fact, we were just talking earlier today with a customer who wants to do a proof of concept and wants to deploy a bunch of software. And my recommendation was, don't do that. Let's spend a couple of hours with a whiteboard, understand your needs, heat map the capabilities. Then you can run a POC to see, is it satisfying your needs, or is it another, like for instance, we say we'll give you full layers of visibility, this, that, and another thing. Define what that means to you first, and then see if the product serves your needs or not. So that's the approach we take.
Wonderful. So I think it's been a wonderful discussion, very insightful, very engaging. and we are on the top of the hour as well.
Awesome.
So
I just
I
have
think
one question to ask.
which I'm expecting that you will take it up after this session gets over. I'm very happy and excited and pleased to see that there are so many questions, and Sudhakar is here, his team is here. They will all be addressing them. And however, in the interest of time, I think it's time to wrap up. It's already 8:40 almost. So, but I foresee a very vibrant and a very engaging session after we wind up here.
And
So-
with a little bit of food in our stomachs, I think
Yeah.
our energy and our brains work well as well.
That will fuel the
Yes.
conversations that lie ahead.
I appreciate your time. I'll be around. I look forward to spending time.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. It's been a lovely, lovely discussion today, and I look forward
Thanks,
to meeting you.
Mukbil, for moderating. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.